Good morning, 7 East. Yesterday was Thursday. Tomorrow, Saturday. Must mean today's Friday. And it's not just any Friday. It is Friday the 13th. Not the 13th of April, but it is the 13th episode of LEPRE Radio, falling on a Friday. Imagine that. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. I guess you could say anything's a bad sign these days, but regardless, we're on the air. I'm still here, you're still here, and we are going to get through this Friday show together. Much shorter show today, not a lot to do. It is the last day of our Unit 5 edition of distance learning, the only unit we've done so far, but it is the last day of Unit 5, so I think that's time for a round of applause. Yep, as that peters out, yes, we have made it through Unit 5, Unit 6, just around the corner. But let's bookend Unit 5 here today together, and let's look at our agenda for today. First thing we have is audience Q&A and some news I have for you. Second, Meghan Kid 2 results. 3, Unwritten Constitution. It's kind of a wrap-up to the Constitution and a preview of Unit 6. And 4, a fan favorite segment, Criminal Animals. Animals are still committing crimes. Even as our country is going through some desperate times, animals are not letting up. Many of them turning to a life of crime. Who can blame them? But we have the top news stories on that front for you as well. So first thing on our agenda is audience Q&A, answering your questions and adding a little bit of news as well. So who impeaches a member of the House of Representatives? I believe this was sent by Haley, this question. And we kind of answered this question a little bit yesterday, but we did it from a different perspective, just from Congress as a whole. Well, the answer to this question is, if a member of the House of Representatives is considered to have committed a crime or have been corrupt, then 2/3 of the other members of the House of Representatives can vote to impeach them and kick them out of Congress, or the House of Representatives specifically. So if you did the math, that basically means you need 290 of the 435 members of the House to vote to kick them out. It does not happen often, though. Usually, since the House members only have 2-year terms, if someone has been embroiled in some kind of scandal, either they will resign or they get voted out in no time anyway. That's what happens when you have short terms. But it is possible they can be impeached by the members of the House of Representatives. Second question, what's happening next week? Is it spring break or not? Well, there's a long answer to this, and you're about to get it. Technically, no. Spring break was canceled. Yes, I know. Everyone's feeling that way. Yes. But that is what the state has determined, that spring break is not to go on, so it is not to go on. But on the other hand, the bright side, we are changing next week to make it easier for you and us. We are going to post everything at once, all of the assignments. So the 2 assignments you normally get spread out throughout the week, they're going to appear on Monday. And there's going to be more limited teacher time during the week to make sure everyone is able to celebrate their religious holidays coming up, if you happen to be celebrating, and get some time to rest and recharge. This means that every assignment, as I said, for the week will be posted on Monday, so you can plan ahead. If you're celebrating one of these holidays coming up, and you know that you won't be able to do work on a Thursday or Friday, you'll have the assignments on Monday so you can plan ahead, and they won't be due until next Sunday. So that gives you enough time. You don't have to worry about handing anything in during the week next week. Of course, the full details will be available in Google Classroom on Monday, so I wouldn't worry about it until then. But that's the basic information you're going to get on this fake spring break. Third question. Are we having a Unit 5 test on the Constitution? No, we are not. Let's see, I got the audience back on my side with that one. Well, the fact that this Friday, today, concludes the unit means we won't be having a test for it. We're not there in person. I can't give you a test. We may return to school in time for a test on Unit 6, our next unit. So make sure you're still learning and working, because if we get back in the middle of the unit, we're still going to have the test, whenever that may be. But that is for Unit 6. Unit 5, there is no test. I did post on Classroom today the review game, Kahoot, that I gave to last year's class in preparing for the Unit 5 test. So if you want to test yourself, you can play that Kahoot. If you did a pretty good job on that Kahoot, that probably means you would have done well on the test. I mentioned that this test is probably the most difficult of the year. Well, fortunate enough for you, you don't have to take it. Next question. Are we still going to play GimKit in the next unit? Yes, absolutely. That's actually one of the things that I found most fun of this distance learning is watching the GimKit games go on. So our next unit is called the Early Republic, where we go through the first several presidencies. I'll try to keep the routine of doing a GimKit at least twice a week. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12:30. It kind of just works out that way. If you have any concerns or suggestions, please send those to me and maybe we can make some changes. The next GimKit will be Tuesday, April 14th. That is after this fake spring break week, because after that we would have had enough material and some time to actually learn something that I can quiz you on for the GimKit. So next one is going to be Tuesday, April 14th, and I'll keep the prizes the way they've been for now. It's not an issue for my bank account yet. But between the two GimKit games, I already owe 110 pieces of candy to the top 10 people in both games. So it may have to be reduced later, but I'll keep it the same for now. And speaking of GimKit, that brings us to our next item on the agenda. That is the East House GimKit number 2. That's right, GimKit 2, Mega GimKit 2, another big success. Not just as a success individually, but as a class. This was an amazing performance. Let me just go over the stats for you right now. Collective balance was nearly 200 billion more than Tuesday's game. So the final total, the balance, was 631,557,161,820. That boils down to 4,291 questions answered correctly, as opposed to just 628 answered incorrectly. That is a huge difference. It was 79% accuracy last time. In just a few days, we shot up almost 10%, 87% accuracy. That is awesome. That is a B+, basically. Everyone who played, getting a B+ average on a unit that you weren't even really in school for most of the time, that's pretty impressive to me. And I'm just looking forward to what we do in Unit 6 as well. As for our individual winners, congratulations to Niles getting first place. Jack, the champion of Mega GimKit 1, coming in second place. Michael, third place, and then the rest of the top 10, we have Marta, followed by Joe V, Angel, Faith, Jason, Brianna, and then Haley. Congratulations to the top 10. I owe all of you candy when I see you again. Now, that wraps up Mega GimKit 2. Mega GimKit 3 will be coming April 14th. Let's see how many of these we can actually get through before the end of the year. The Unwritten Constitution. So our content topic for today. So the Unwritten Constitution. The first rule of the Unwritten Constitution is that you do not write the Unwritten Constitution. The second rule of the Unwritten Constitution is that you do not write the Unwritten Constitution. And I have this page symbolically blank for that reason. But if we don't remember, it's from the Quizlet and the vocab for this unit. And the definition was this. The Unwritten Constitution is the political practices that are followed but are not part of the actual Constitution. Examples include political parties, judicial review, and the presidential cabinet. So there's a lot of stuff about our government that isn't written down. It's like a tradition, it happens out of habit, and it's just something that has stayed with us and makes this whole system work even though it's not part of what's written down in the Constitution. For example, one of the questions in the GimKit was how many times is the political parties mentioned in the Constitution? The answer to that is 0. Political parties are not mentioned at all in the Constitution, and yet we can't even imagine our political process today without them. That's because it's part of the Unwritten Constitution. It's the habits and traditions that have kind of built up around the Constitution itself. So why do we even bother mentioning the Unwritten Constitution? Well, because it's the key for understanding how the early United States was able to get things done when putting the Constitution into practice. The Constitution is one thing on paper. It's something entirely different in real-life situations. Think about any time you've played a game where when you play it, it's clear that you need some extra things that are not written down to make the game run smoothly. One thing that comes to mind, baseball, even though baseball season is on hold for now, people say there's an unwritten rule in baseball about how, if a batter hits a home run, you're not supposed to flip your bat and embarrass the pitcher. It's an unwritten rule. And if a player does that, then next time up, the pitcher might throw the ball at them. That's an unwritten rule. It's a tradition that's not part of the rule book. It's a tradition, though, that is part of the game, for better or for worse. And the same thing applies for the Constitution. There's a lot of practices that are not written down, but nevertheless, they are part of what makes this country run. Political parties probably being the most obvious example. So in Unit 6, the Early Republic, we examine how the early presidents played the game of government under the rules of the Constitution. We're going to see how the early presidents actually worked through this rule book and tried to use the government to their advantage, and we're going to find out how well the Constitution actually worked in the real world when everything wasn't just decided on paper. So that is the unwritten Constitution. It's going to be a huge part of understanding Unit 6. But we're going to leave that on hold for now this Friday, and I'm going to just end our show and end this week with a fun segment, Criminal Animals. Got a lot of good feedback from this one last time, and I found 3, these are true stories, that relate to things that are going on in the animal world that are also on the wrong side of the law. So without further ado, we have our beloved segment, Criminal Animals. Even animals are subject to the law and order theme. Alright, story number 1. U.S. man teaching dog how to drive arrested after high-speed chase. Can you believe that? Automotive violations by dogs? So, begin this article. Los Angeles, a resident of the western U.S. state of Washington, was arrested following a high-speed chase that left officers dumbfounded after they found the man's pit bull behind the wheel. I will give this man some credit, though. It's probably a good choice to use a pit bull behind the wheel. I can't imagine a Maltese or a Pomeranian behind the wheel. They don't really have the limbs that can access the steering wheel. But this pit bull, you know what? It must have done a pretty good job if they went through a police chase with them. But again, this dog and its owner are going to be disciplined for that in the eyes of the law. So they are Criminal Animal of the Week number 1. Story number 2. Squirrel temporarily knocks out power. Power was quickly restored. The squirrel was not. A squirrel interfering with the electrical equipment temporarily knocked out power for 15 customers near Governor's Mansion, and Alaska Electric Light and Power spokesperson said. It happens. They sometimes get where they shouldn't be, said Debbie Driscoll, AEL&P's vice president and consumer affairs, in a phone interview. He basically caused a problem with the fuses. I guess this squirrel will not face justice because, as it said, power was quickly restored, but the squirrel was not restored. So press F to pay respects for the squirrel. Rest in peace, squirrel. And lastly, shocking news. In the virtual animal kingdom, Animal Crossing fans are torturing villagers to get them to move out. Now, those of you who have Nintendo Switches, you might be playing the new game Animal Crossing. Well, apparently it's generated some controversy online because when you get your New Horizons island in Animal Crossing, apparently you have some residents that are already there with you of the animal variety. And apparently that some players have been so impatient that they have been torturing their villagers to get them to move out. I hope it's not one of us doing this, but who can say, really? It's probably the most expedient way to get rid of these villagers in the video game. Nevertheless, I expect a patch coming soon where Nintendo's going to fix this because it sounds awfully horrible for a game as wholesome as Animal Crossing. So, if you're one of those people torturing the villagers, please stop. Otherwise, the law's about to get you too. That does it for our Criminal Animal segment. And that does it for this episode of LEPRE Radio. Enjoy the fake spring break. We move on to Unit 6. I'm excited for this one. Lots of cool videos in this unit. And I will talk to you later. Mr. LEPRE signing off.